Well, that made it even worse. Gene, that's how you intro a video. Hello, Jacksonites, and so a bit of an announcement. Super Kaiju Binge is going on yet another hiatus because once again, monster movies were getting just a bit monotonous, so I need to take another break. But most importantly, with the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max, which I have, and me and the wife sat down and watched the night that it came out, all 4 hours. It was worth it. I am now in full on superhero mood now. And that's just what I want to do videos on right now. Because I'm in a massive superhero mood right now. I've bought a whole bunch of superhero movies and shows. I bought season 1 of Smallville, seasons 2 and 3 of Supergirl, Krypton, Superman Man of Tomorrow, Superman the Animated Series, the Justice League Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited the Animated Series, a whole bunch of DC Animated Movie Universe films, season 1 of the X-Men cartoon from the 90s. That's the only Marvel. No, and I repurchased the complete box set of the Lou Ferrigno Hulk show. So I'm in full on superhero movie mood right now, and that's what I want to focus on. So today, I thought I would kick off this period of interest on my channel right now by doing a redo of my top 20 favorite superhero films. I did this video a long time ago. Not really a long time ago. It was like a year and a half ago. The list was predominantly Marvel movies. And nowadays, my list is very different now. I tried to broaden the focus and include other superhero movies from different genres, like of more, not necessarily less Marvel, but more DC and a couple other superhero movies from different universes and such. Hang on one sec. I just tried to make the list a lot more varied. And this one's going to be also a bit, not really controversial, but very unconventional, because there's a couple installments on this list that are like more than one movie. I'll explain why as I go along. And also, this list is not really in any particular order. These are just my favorite superhero movies. That it's kind of like how I said in my first video. If I was to be stuck on an island somewhere, these are the superhero movies that I would want to take with me and watch for the rest of my life. These are that good to me. So without further ado, let us begin with my top 20 favorite superhero films. But starting off with number 20, this one is the most debatable and also the most controversial, because while it's technically a comic book movie, it's not a superhero movie. And that is 2019's Joker. Yeah, not really a superhero movie. It's an origin story of a villain, yes, but I don't consider Joker to be a super villain. I barely consider Lex Luthor to be a super villain because he's just a mere human. But my distaste of Joker and distaste of Batman aside, Joker is a phenomenal fucking movie. I've already said this before. I really wasn't interested in Joker when the trailers first started dropping and all the hype and buzz was building for it. But it eventually did win me and the wife over. So I just said, you know what? Let's go check out Joker just to see what it's like. Went into it. and I came out of it absolutely blown away. Joaquin Phoenix is perfectly cast as, what's his last name? As Joker, I'll just say. His acting is absolutely phenomenal. It's a really good tragic downfall of someone who is just abused, and he finally snaps. And while he commits some heinous crimes, you do feel bad for him over the course of the film. The music for the film is absolutely spectacular. When this movie was going through the Academy Award shit, there was two things that I was hoping that it would get. One is I was hoping that Joaquin Phoenix would win an Oscar for his acting, which he did. But I was also hoping that the film would win an award for its music, and it did. It won Academy Awards for both Joaquin Phoenix's performance and the guy who did the music for the film. So I was like, okay, yeah, definitely have made a win. What's up, hon? Oh, and the word has been spoken. So yeah. And I was also really hoping the film would make $1 billion. I was working the shittiest job of my entire life, and I would just keep looking up the movie's box office performance, and I would just keep saying, "Come on, just break $1 billion." It made 600 million, then 7, then 8, then 9. As I was like, "Okay, come on, please, just give us a win, make $1 billion." And when it finally did make over $1 billion, I was like, yeah, they did good. And it's really sad that the media so desperately wanted that film to fail, saying, "Oh, it's just going to cause people to kill others, and there's going to cause rampant riots and violence." The only thing that it really spurred on is a whole bunch of people doing the Joker dance down that flight of stairs. Shut the fuck up. Joker is a phenomenal film. I don't give a damn what anybody says. Number 19 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. These are my two favorite Ninja Turtles movies. And they're the ones that immediately come to mind whenever I think of Ninja Turtles. Well, I think a lot of people who are Ninja Turtles fans that criticize specifically Secret of the Ooze are fanboys of the 80s cartoon. And I think they fail to realize that the filmmakers weren't really looking to adapt the cartoon. They were taking more inspiration from the comics. They were taking the tone and setting and style from the comics more of over the show. Which is something that I think the Paramount Ninja Turtles movies do in a good way. They take the inspiration from the cartoon and make that into a bit more of an adult-centric live-action movie, which is cool there. But, oh my god, the first two Ninja Turtles movies are utterly stellar. The first one, love it to death. It's an excellent adaptation of the origin of the Ninja Turtles and also Shredder and Splinter. Like if you read the first graphic novel, which compiles I think like the first 3 issues, it's just like an adaptation, or it's just like watching the movie in its storyboard phase. The movie is such a good adaptation from the first few issues of Ninja Turtles. It's mind blowing. Now, while the second movie does take a more original story too, I still feel like it's the perfect continuation of the first movie. And it includes more mainstream elements to make the movie much more accessible to a lot of viewers. Hell, with my son on the way, I plan to actually have the very first Ninja Turtles movie that he watches be TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze. It combines the more darker and mature elements of the first film with the more fun, campy, and actiony elements of the cartoon, but also just a lot of 90s action movies that were coming out at the time, which is why My absolute favorite Ninja Turtles movie is part 2. But I also do love the first movie for various reasons as well. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. It's arguably a much better made movie than the second movie. The second movie doesn't look bad, but the dark and gritty feel just makes the first movie feel a bit more unique and a bit more like a more well-made film. But the first two Ninja Turtles movies, I just absolutely love to death. And yes, the Ninja Turtles are superheroes. I don't give a shit what anyone says. TMNT 3 and TMNT 07. Well, 3 is a bad movie, but I do like it as a guilty pleasure. And TMNT from 2007, I think, is a bit of an underrated gem. And I also do like the Paramount Ninja Turtles movies as well. I really don't understand the hate that those movies get. And I guess there's yet again another Ninja Turtles movies on the way. So let's see what they'll do with that. Coming in at number 18 is Blade. I said this already. It really fucking irritates me when everyone says that the very first black superhero movie is Black Panther. It's not true, even remotely. Because hang on. Technically, as far as I know, the very first black superhero movie was Steel, starring Shaquille O'Neal from 1997, but specifically the first black Marvel movie came out with Blade in 1998. A full 20 years before Black Panther. Pick your Mickey Mouse fleece up.
Why'd you throw it on the floor?
Because it blended in with my shirt. Your chocolate gummy bears. Anyway, Blade is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. I distinctly remember seeing it for the very first time when I was very young, when me and my dad were living with my younger brother's mom. I remember seeing it, the very first scene with the blood shower at the very beginning of the movie. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, that's like the most blood I've ever seen on screen. I think that's been eclipsed by a lot of other movies, but for young 4 or 5-year-old me at the time, that was truly a sight to behold. But I really saw it from beginning to end for the first time when what? Uh-huh. When I bought it at a flea market of all places, and I decided I really, really wanted to see it. So I sat back and I watched it. And you ever have those moments where you're watching a movie that just totally sucks you in? You just sit there for the entirety of it and you just don't move. You barely breathe and you barely blink your eyes. That was one of those moments for me. The first Blade movie absolutely just blew me the fuck away. It had excellent action scenes, great music, a great character played by Wesley Snipes, who does a phenomenal job and was perfectly cast as Blade. A decent story. Just overall, it was a very fun, entertaining action horror superhero movie. It has some dated CG and some kind of questionable editing at times. But it was the late 90s, so the CG is a bit excusable, and also this type of movie was very experimental at the time because Marvel movies were still very, very much in their infancy. This was only 2 years before X-Men and 4 years before Spider-Man. So this type of shit was extremely experimental. But still, the original Blade is an absolute masterpiece of a movie. One of my favorite movies of all time, and of course, still one of my favorite superhero films. Number 17 is Venom from 2018. This is a very special movie for me and my wife as well because this is how she and I came to be together. I've told this story ad nauseum, but I came to her job wearing a Spider-Man hoodie. She saw that and gushed over it. I asked her to go see Venom with me, and she accepted.
You know, I thought I was going to tell you to fuck off.
Yeah. We saw it, had 3 or 4 dates after that, and now we're engaged with a baby boy on the way.
Nice gummy bear.
2.5 years later. In looking past that too, I do think Venom is a miserably underappreciated superhero movie. Its Google score is like really high, but for some reason its Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb score is extremely low, which somehow, which I still do think a lot of critics are just paid to like Disney movies and paid to shit on anything that's not Disney nowadays. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Venom's not controlled by Disney. And that was one of the few movies that I was looking forward to that wasn't Godzilla vs. Kong to come out in 2020, being Venom 2. And I have heard that's going to be R-rated as well, so that has me even more excited for it. I will admit that the first Venom has a couple problems, mainly in one, it should have been R-rated. It works with its PG-13 rating, so it doesn't feel like it was like the Babadook, or not Babadook, the Bye Bye Man, where it was originally R-rated, but then the studio got cold feet and decided to edit it down to a PG-13, and it was plain as day. It does feel like they were shooting for a PG-13 rating the whole time, but it is kind of a stronger PG-13 rating. They say fuck a couple times. There's blood. There's people getting their heads bit off. It is a bit more of a brutal PG-13 rating. But it would have been a bit better if they did go for a full-on R rating, because then we could have seen Riot and Venom go on rampages, killing people left and right. It would have been cool. And speaking of which, my biggest problem with Venom, the final fight between Venom and Riot is a bit too one-sided. Venom gets his ass kicked a little too easily by Riot. Now, they do state that Riot is one of the strongest symbiotes around, so I would have been all right if Venom had to overcome great odds, but it just feels like Venom barely gets any hits towards Riot. He gets a couple, but that's it. I would have preferred seeing Venom punch Riot out a couple of times and smash him against a wall or the floor a few more times than he does. Because other than that, it's just Riot kicking the shit out of Venom for a good majority of their fight. And, well, Venom does kill Riot in a very good way. I just feel like it's just a tad too little too late. But aside from that, Venom is a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. It's a great movie. It's fun. It's funny. It's entertaining as shit. It's got great special effects. The chemistry between Tom Hardy and Venom, which when you think about it is really just Tom Hardy talking to himself, because Venom is also voiced by Tom Hardy. It's very entertaining, it's very funny, and it's very believable. Venom is a masterpiece, and I cannot wait for Venom 2. Coming in at number 16 is Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, the only Batman movie on this list, solo Batman movie, and one of only 2 animated movies on this list. I had 1 originally. Batman: The Dark Knight Returns is a freaking masterpiece animated movie. It is a perfect, excellent adaptation of the Batman: The Dark Knight Returns comic. I haven't read it, but I've seen quite a few reviews, and I've seen the movie quite a few times. And from the comic panels that I've seen from those various reviews, it does look like the movie is an excellent adaptation of said comic. And I do like Batman versus Superman, but I still will say this is a way better Batman versus Superman movie than the actual Batman versus Superman movie. I do greatly appreciate all of the references to Dark Knight Returns in Batman versus Superman, but here they just feel way better. The story is really good. The whole political debate over is Superman and Batman a good thing in today's society is really fascinating, and it's really well thought out, and it's very intriguing. The action scenes are great. The animation is stellar. It's also long. That's a universal problem that I have with those animated DC movies, is that they're always like an hour and 15 to an hour and 20 minutes. It's just not good enough. I have the special edition of Dark Knight Returns where it combined both parts into just one movie. So it's like almost 2 hours and 40 minutes. A much better, and that makes it a much better movie in and of itself. A lot of DC animated movie universe movies, specifically like Son of Batman and Batman versus Robin and Death of Superman and Reign of the Superman, should have been edited together as one movie, and they would have been much better films. And of course, the voice acting for Dark Knight Returns is absolutely phenomenal. The standout role, like everyone does do a good performance, but the standout role is, of course, Peter Weller as Bruce Wayne and Batman. Fucking stellar. Aside from RoboCop, he's Batman. Kevin Conroy is animated Batman, but in terms of animated Batman movies, they should have gotten Peter Weller around a lot more than Jason O'Mara. He just does okay. But Peter Weller is stellar. And I also do appreciate that they have a couple RoboCop references throughout the movie as well. Specifically, well, there's two I can think of off the top of my head. At the beginning, when Bruce is driving that car, someone's trying to take over his controls. He just punches out a control panel and tears out wires, just like in RoboCop 3. But specifically, when Batman is saving that little boy, he punches through the wall and grabs the dude holding a gun, just like in RoboCop. It's stellar. Batman The Dark Knight Returns is a phenomenal film. And another one of those cases where I went into it and I was very, very pleasantly surprised. At number 15 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Another movie that I share a lot of sentiment with the wife over. She wanted to see this more than me. For some reason, when I was watching the trailers for Into the Spider-Verse, just something wasn't really clicking with me. It just looked a little too kid-friendly, and it looked a little too just weird for my tastes. But she wanted to go see it, so I decided, all right, well, it's a Spider-Man movie. What could be so bad? And once again, I went into it, and I came out very, very pleasantly surprised. The animation is strange, but for some reason it does work. And it makes the movie look a lot more unique. The story is very, very surprisingly complex, but it's not too complicated either. It's just the perfect amount of complex where you're just like, this is actually kind of some deep shit. Action scenes are pretty good, though I will admit this movie is just a tad bit too tame in terms of the action scenes. But it's just enough for me to, be all right with it. Because one issue that I have with modern Spider-Man stuff, they just let Spider-Man deal with his enemies solely with just his webs, and he doesn't punch or kick. In Spider-Verse, he does punch and kick. Not a whole lot, but he still does regardless. It introduces also Miles Morales, the next Spider-Man, who is a very, very good Spider-Man. Not a successor, just a really good alternate Spider-Man. And he's a fun character. The music is great too. Of course, you have was it Post Malone? The great Sunflower song by Post Malone, which they used to heavily introduce this film. And listening to Miles Morales like intermittently sing Sunflower at the beginning of the movie was funny. The only minor issue that I have with Spider-Verse is some of the design choices, specifically for Kingpin, because he looks he looks like Gru from Despicable Me, but he's just so oddly disproportionate. He kind of looks like the Hunchback from Notre Dame, just without a fucked up eye. Like, why is his head growing out of his chest? That's exactly what he looks like in the way that he's drawn in the movie. But my biggest design choice is Scorpion. I don't like this version of Scorpion. I don't like the cybernetic insectoid arachnid mix for his design. I think it looks so ridiculous, and you can just barely recognize it as Scorpion. Because I do think that Scorpion is Spider-Man's most underrated villain. And for us to get Scorpion that looks like this, I think it's a little lame. But aside from that, Spider-Verse was a big, very, very big, pleasant surprise. I eagerly await Spider-Verse 2, and I look forward to more stuff that they're going to do with this series. And it absolutely deserved to win an Academy Award. At number 14 is the 2005 Fantastic Four. This movie is criminally underrated. I still believe that it has a giant shadow cast over it by the Elektra movie and this movie's own sequel, Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer. Two of some of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen. What she said. Silver Surfer is not. No, I think it's a bad movie. It's not a good adaptation of Silver Surfer or Galactus. It just felt like a quickie, rushed, here, have another one type sequel, considering it's like a half hour shorter than its predecessor. But the first Fantastic Four, again, I think is so criminally underrated. It seems like everywhere I look, people just shit all over this movie. I don't get it. Everybody's perfectly cast. The guy who plays Mr. Fantastic does great. Jessica Alba is really good as Invisible Woman. Chris Evans does a great job as Human Torch. He's funny. He's hot-headed. He's brash. He's like a teenager. He looks like a teenager, too. The guy they have playing the Thing is fucking stellar, and I love the suit that they have for the Thing. The effects on him just look absolutely amazing. And of course, the guy who plays Doctor Doom does a really good job too. He's menacing, he's threatening. He does look like a villain, and he plays a villain very, very well. The action scenes are great. The effects are great. It very much so is a stickler for the superhero origin story formula, but it is a very good adaptation of that origin story. It's modernized, of course, but aside from that, at its core story, it's virtually identical to the original origin. Yeah, I don't get why people hate this movie. I think it's such an underrated gem. At number 13, ironically, this movie came out in 2013, is Man of Steel. My favorite Superman, almost said superhero. My favorite Superman movie of all time, the greatest Superman movie of all time, and it casts the greatest Superman actor, live action wise, of all time, too. That, of course, being Henry Cavill. I have yet to see Smallville, so let me specifically say my favorite film actor for Superman. Henry Cavill absolutely kills it. Huh? Whatever. I've heard it pronounced Cavill, Cavill. Someone tell me, how the fuck do you pronounce his last name? Damn it. Excellent adaptation of the origin of Krypton and the origin of Superman. A lot of people had a big issue with how the story was told, being like told from flashbacks and then present, flashback and then present. I didn't mind it at all. I had absolutely no issue following the story of Man of Steel. Kevin Costner was great as Jonathan Kent. Michael Shannon is excellent as General Zod. General Zod, I do think it was a bit of jumping the gun for having General Zod, who I think is one of the most underrated Superman villains, be the very first Superman villain. I kind of think they should have gone with Brainiac. But on that other hand, Brainiac is kind of like a more Omega level villain. So General Zod was a good choice. I just kind of do wish we could have seen General Zod pop up more often. But whatever. Um, yeah, Michael Shannon does a great job as General Zod. He's sympathetic at first, but then he's also very unsympathetic and he's very threatening and menacing. Um, the action scenes are spectacular. Yeah, they're a bit Dragon Ball Z-esque, but they're still entertaining. The music's great. The effects are awesome. Overall, Man of Steel is a fucking good ass time. And it kicks off my number one favorite superhero franchise of all time. And number 12 is the 2004 Hellboy movie. Now, yes, I do still like Hellboy 2019, but looking back on it now, I do see that there are some flaws. But the first Hellboy movie, I remember when this was coming out, I did not give a shit. I was not interested in this at all. It looked too strange and too against status quo for superhero movies. I didn't even know it was a superhero movie um, for a long time. But then I actually sat down and watched Hellboy, and I was like, oh, God, this is actually pretty kick ass. And every time I watch it now, I just love it more and more and more. Ron Perlman was perfectly cast as Hellboy. His gruff exterior and his deep, gravelly voice was perfect for Hellboy. And of course, you give this project in the hands of a very talented director that is Guillermo del Toro, with his weird, very, very strange design motifs, and his just his strange vision. It gives you a lot of really good visuals. Of course, he's a really good director too. Good casting, great effects, great music, good dark story, good adaptation of Hellboy. Well, not like the greatest adaptation of Hellboy, but it still obviously does look like Hellboy. Overall, yeah, 2004 Hellboy is such a masterpiece film. It's criminally underrated too. I don't really get why this movie didn't make a whole lot of money. Well, I do, but I also don't, because Hellboy has a bigger cult following now, but at the time, Hellboy was still kind of a bit of a niche superhero. So maybe like just people weren't familiar with Hellboy enough for the movie to make money, but it spawned a decent sequel, spawned 2 prequels and a reboot film that I think is criminally underrated. But yeah, the first Hellboy movie I think is a really, 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 really underrated unsung masterpiece. And I think it's one of Guillermo del Toro's top 5 best movies. Maybe even number 2, with Pacific Rim being number 1. And number 11 is Blade 2. I've talked a lot about Blade 2 in my top 15 favorite sequels and also my original top 20 list. So I'll just say Blade 2 takes everything that was great about the first Blade film, improves in its minor chinks in the armor, and bumps everything that was great and perfect up to 10. Excellent action scenes. The once again return of director Guillermo del Toro. So I think this might be his 3rd best movie. Yeah, probably. Having Donnie Yen as the martial arts choreographer, and he also plays a character. A lot more gore, a much darker story, greater stakes, better CG. Still early 2000s CG, but it still looks decent. Excellent martial arts choreography, great action scenes, excellent music, great acting, great characters. Everything about Blade 2 is just awesome. I can praise the living shit out of this movie all fucking day. I need to review these movies. Damn. Yeah. Blade 2 is fucking awesome. And number 10 is the 2016 Suicide Squad movie. Now, this probably is the most flawed of the DC Extended Universe. That mostly has to do with the fact that David Ayer wanted to make one movie and Warner Brothers wanted something completely different. And while it's disappointing that apparently with the success of the Snyder Cut, it's not going to give us the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad, because apparently the CEO of Warner Media is just like, nope, that was a one-time thing, not happening. It's disappointing, but I still am very, very happy with the current cut of Suicide Squad. Specifically, I talk about the extended version of Suicide Squad. The theatrical cut is a mess. It's very obvious that like the studio just took a chainsaw to the film. The extended cut adds in like 20 to 25 minutes of footage. It could be even a little less, but I know it adds quite a bit of footage to the theatrical cut, and it makes it into much more of a cohesive story. And it's also here where they were really sprinkling a whole lot of storylines and future world building in the DC superhero universe with Suicide Squad, and having a lot more lesser known characters be introduced. And also a big budget movie about one of the more lesser known comic book team ups. That, of course, being the Suicide Squad. Didn't even know the Suicide Squad was a thing before this movie came out, but now I know they're actually one of the older, more lesser known comic book teams in comics. Will Smith is awesome as Deadshot. I was very disappointed to hear that Will Smith dropped out as Deadshot, and they replaced him with Idris Elba. Is it Idris? Idris Elba, which I don't really think he's that good of an actor. He was good at Pacific Rim, and he was decent in what was it called? Hobbs and Shaw. But outside of that, I just think he's just kind of okay. But yeah, Will Smith is awesome as Deadshot. I think she's annoying half the time, but she also has her moments when she's really good. That being Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Her version of Harley Quinn is definitely a lot nuttier, but still decent. Jai Courtney is really annoying as Captain Boomerang, but I realize that's not due to Jai Courtney being annoying. Captain Boomerang is just a very annoying character. As now that I've seen Justice League Dark Apocalypse War and Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, he's annoying in both those films as well. So it ain't him, it's just Boomerang himself. The effects are great for the most part. The action scenes are stellar. The sets look great. It definitely does look like it cost $175 million. Great music, really good origin stories for a lot of these characters. Okay, yes. The most cringy scene involving Jared Leto as the Joker is the infamous tattoo on hand scene. Yeah. Even the wife agrees. It's cringy, right? But outside of that, I actually don't think Jared Leto is that bad as Joker. It's a weird, very strange version of the Joker, and it doesn't help that a lot of the trailers kind of showed off Joker a lot, making you think he was going to be in it a lot more, when no, not really. He's maybe in it for 15 minutes, maybe 20 out of the whole movie. But I don't think he's that bad. The biggest area where I think Suicide Squad falters is the villains. They don't have the worst villains of the DC Extended Universe, but they definitely have the most bland villains, because at least Enchantress's evil scheme actually does cause worldwide destruction. Incubus is a decent. No, he's he's an okay villain. He's just there to be the intimidating big muscle, and that's it. But the biggest aspect of this movie that I think really falters is when Enchantress is in her green, wispy, clean human form. The animation on her is bad. It's really, really bad. It's very cartoony. Very obviously, she's CGI enhanced. And also, her having that half fan shaped peacock bullshit crown on her head just makes her look fucking ridiculous. Though it does lead to a funny line from Deadshot to what's his name? I totally forgot his name. No, not him. No, the leader. Flag, thank you. Or you need to put an end to this shit. All right, go up there, smack on her ass, tell her knock this shit off. Yeah, I love Suicide Squad. It's not my favorite of the DC Extended Universe, but oddly, it's the one that I can just rewatch over and over and over again and just be endlessly entertained. Hell, when I first met my wife and I first actually really started getting into the DC Extended Universe, 3 nights in a row, I just kept texting her, "Hey, I'm watching Suicide Squad again. Watching Suicide Squad again. Hey, I'm watching rewatching Suicide Squad again." And she was just like, "What the fuck?" And her and I have rewatched the movie 5 or 6 times in the 2.5 years that we've been together. And every time we're just like, yeah, this is a good movie. Number 9 comes to Birds of Prey, the last movie that both me and the wife have seen in theaters together. It's a distant time. My God. Huh? Yeah, because all of our fucking movie theaters in our area have just been closed for over a year. This was the first movie of 2020 that I was like, I want to go see it. If theaters hadn't closed, this would have been the first, and it still probably would have been in like my top 5 favorites. Birds of Prey was a damn fucking good time. I was immediately in, because when the plans were announced, I once again wasn't super excited. That was also half because I was more interested in a Wonder Woman sequel. Still haven't seen Wonder Woman 84. That's on its way. It'll be here soon. Relatively, within like 20 days. But yeah, I was just more interested in Wonder Woman 84. But then it got delayed, so I was like, oh, okay, let's just see what Birds of Prey is like. But then I noticed Birds of Prey is going to be R-rated, so I was like, ooh. And the first R-rated movie, well, no, not really. First theatrically released R-rated installment in the series. So I was like, ooh, yes, please. So she and I, the wife, saw it in theaters, and I was not disappointed. I had a good ass fucking time with Birds of Prey. I do think Birds of Prey is a bit of a better movie than Suicide Squad for a couple reasons. One, it's R-rated. 2, has a lot more action scenes. And also 3, something I should have said too, as much as I love Suicide Squad, with the extended cut, I do say you need to watch the extended cut. If you watch the theatrical cut, that is the shitty version of the movie. The extended cut fixes a lot of the problems, but I can still tell that there is some missing footage with Suicide Squad. Birds of Prey didn't really feel like there was a huge compensation between the director and the studio. It just feels like I think it was Kathy Ann. Was Kathy Ann the one who directed Birds of Prey? Well, I think it was her. And it didn't really feel like there was a huge compensation between the studio and her. It just felt like they said, okay, yeah, just make the movie you want to make. The one aspect of Birds of Prey that I don't like Not her character, just the actress being a Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress. I can't stand her. Whenever she's on screen, I just want to scream, "Get out! Your acting is bad." Because her acting is so bad. All of her lines are cringy. All of her acting is cringy. Her facial expressions are cringy. I can't tell if they were trying to be funny in like that awkward, like socially awkward kind of way, or if they were just trying to be a bit more serious. It fails in both ways. But other than that, the rest of the cast is really good. Lots of really good shine time for Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. She does a great job. The chick who plays Black Canary, I don't remember her name, does really, really good. And in my eyes, the highlight of the movie is fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi as Black Mask. Ewan McGregor as the main villain of the movie. Gay.
Oh, yeah.
Gay as fuck. I'm not homophobic. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm saying it's a good thing. The dude is so clearly gay. Oh my god, he's so fucking funny and he's so fun to watch. Just watch him be this crazy, egotistical, sociopathic fag.
Don't say that. You're not allowed to say that.
It's funny. It's funny as shit watching him act like this throughout the whole movie. Is that a snot bubble? Ugh. Okay, just peel her face off. Oh, he's funny. He's so funny. And he has a really good death too. He gets a grenade put in his pocket, kicked off a dock, and just gets blown to bits in Gotham Harbor. I do have to wonder, where's Batman during all this? Whatever, though. It is also a good setup for a future possible Birds of Prey movie, which ironically, despite the fact that it's called Birds of Prey, the Birds of Prey themselves barely show up in it. But I think they should just called it Harley Quinn, or like The Adventures of Harley Quinn or some shit, which it kind of seems like that's what they were going for, but then they just renamed it Harley Quinn Birds of Prey, but whatever. Birds of Prey is a fun time. Oh, and it also takes excellent advantage of the fact that it's R-rated, because we get some really, really nice, violent, nasty deaths in this movie. Specifically Black Mask's in his gay-ass ways. Yeah, he's gay. If anyone was to say that Black Mask is not gay in this movie, I would just say you're lying. You're stupid. He's clearly supposed to be gay. At number 8, we have Wonder Woman 2017. Once again, I wasn't all that interested in seeing the movie, partially because I didn't know who Gal Gadot was, but just in general, that was like near the end of my time as being a pure Marvel fan. But when I actually sat down and watched Wonder Woman, I was very happy with the film. I was very pleasantly surprised, very entertained, and very impressed. They finally managed to give us a good live-action adaptation of, in my opinion, the greatest female superhero in either DC, Marvel, or Vertigo Comics. Wonder Woman 2017 is a masterpiece movie. Despite its biggest problem being, in my opinion, Wonder Woman has the weakest villains of the entire DC Extended Universe. It kind of has 3, with Dr. Poison, the World War I red herring, not a Nazi, but obviously a Nazi general dude. And, of course, the God of War, Ares, who just comes out of nowhere at the last minute, literally. Yeah, I do think that that Wonder Woman has the weakest villains, but I think that's its only issue. The fight between Wonder Woman and Ares is entertaining, but the issue is that Ares literally just comes out of buttfuck nowhere at the very last minute. But the action scenes are spectacular. The cinematography and colors are excellent. the setting of being in World War I, which is one of the most overlooked wars in American history, I found that to be very, very refreshing because you have so many movies and war movies that talk about World War II. But here, talk about World War I just felt like it was a breath of fresh air. Great action scenes, excellent special effects, and the fucking music. Wonder Woman's theme during the Battle of No Man's Land is awesome. Yeah. And also, of course, Gal Gadot absolutely kills it as Wonder Woman herself. Would not want to fuck with Gal Gadot. Not in the slightest. Badass bitch there. Right, hun? Yeah, Wonder Woman's awesome. A absolutely fucking stellar movie. At number 7, we have the first Avengers movie. Love it. What is up with so many of these fucking superhero movies with me just saying, wasn't really interested, but then I actually watched it. I'm really against pop culture. But I actually sat down and I watched The Avengers when I got it for Christmas. I said this before, it kind of seemed like everybody had a boner for Tom Hiddleston when this movie was coming out. I still don't get that, but all the praise that the Avengers gets, I do get, because the first Avengers movie is fucking awesome. To my knowledge, it may be the very first big budget live action team up movie. And yeah, it definitely paid off. The first of the MCU to make over $1 billion, which it deserves. Spectacular action scenes, a very good kind of not really complex story, but a very busy story. Great character interactions, great dialogue, great acting, great special effects, awesome music. The first Avengers movie is a fucking masterpiece, in my opinion. At one point, it was my number one favorite superhero movie, but then 6 others came out that surpassed it. But yeah, the first Avengers is awesome. At number 6, we have Logan, the only X-Men movie to be on this list. Said it before, and I'll say it again. I wasn't down for this movie at first, but then I decided to check it out, and I'm glad that I did. I saw it in theaters. I was really intrigued when it was announced it was R-rated. So I was like, ooh, another R-rated superhero movie. I'm down. Hugh Jackman gives it his all playing Logan in this movie. His performance is stellar. Like the emotion and the anger and grief that goes through his face throughout the whole film is awesome. The effects are great. The story is very dark and bleak and grim, but with just enough of humor in it to give it like its moments of levity. But it's emotional when it needs to be, and they give Wolverine a really good death. The action scenes are phenomenal. Some of the editing over here and there is just a little janky, sort of, but not enough as to like totally take you out of the movie. And in my opinion, this movie ends the X-Men series. Dark Phoenix can fuck off. I predicted it flopping $247 million against a $200 million budget. Yeah, that's a big flop. And the New Mutants, nobody fucking gives a shit about. Deadpool can kind of go on as be its own thing, but yeah, the X-Men series died with this film as far as I'm concerned. Logan is a spectacular movie, and it should have won an Oscar. Now we're in top 5 territory. Said a lot about these movies, so this will be kind of quick. Number 5 is the 2008 Incredible Hulk. Fucking love this movie. The acting is great. The cinematography is fantastic. The effects are spectacular. The adaptation of the original Incredible Hulk story is modernized quite a bit, but it's still very, very good. A lot of great homages to the Lou Ferrigno Hulk show. Hell, Lou Ferrigno himself has a cameo. Jack McGee is name dropped. The overall tone and story is similar to the original show, how Bruce Banner is always like moving around the world to escape the military and the Hulk. How he becomes the Hulk is very similar to the show. Of course, the name of the movie is The Incredible Hulk too. The Abomination's a great villain. The action scenes are stellar, and Hulk himself is awesome. It's such a shame that the Incredible Hulk has gone on to become like the black sheep of the entire series. And I think that sucks because I really do think this is such an underrated movie and a very underappreciated gem. And it's also really fucking frustrating because Disney just seemingly refuses to do anything but the barest minimum with Hulk. If Universal weren't such a bunch of pansies, they could have their own superhero franchise to compete with Disney, like how Sony has Spider-Man, Universal has Hulk, so they could do their own thing. But they're just a bunch of pansies now, so I don't see that happening, which sucks. But at least I have this movie to give us the best version of Hulk on screen. Mark Ruffalo does good as Hulk, but that's such a stylistically different Hulk that I almost want to say it's a different version, even though technically it is the same Hulk from this movie. But Hulk 08 is a masterpiece movie. Number 4, Aquaman. Oh, probably my favorite movie that I ever watched with the wife in theaters, right? Jason Momoa is perfectly cast as Aquaman, and every single female that I know has some kind of boner for Jason Momoa. My stepmom especially, and also the wife a little bit. A little bit. Yeah, he was very well cast. Aside from Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe gives his best superhero performance as Vulko, like Aquaman's mentor. Patrick Wilson does a great job as Orm, Ocean Master, which I think is one of the better villains of the DCEU. Very colorful, lots of CG, but very well animated, and it uses its $200 million budget very, very well. Definitely deserved to make $1 billion. A good story, a good runtime too. It's almost 2.5 hours. Good story, good adaptation of the Aquaman's origin, great action scenes. The one downside is Amber Heard, or Amber Turd, as we like to call her now, as Mira, in light of recent events with her and Johnny Depp just going down the shitter. I don't want to say she tarnishes this movie, but it does diminish its appeal just a little bit because whenever I see Amber Turd on screen, I just see like this black aura around her of how horrible of a human being she is, which kind of sucks. But looking past that, Aquaman is a fucking masterpiece. My favorite movie that I ever saw with the wife in theaters, one of my favorite theater experiences in general. Specifically, the second time I saw it in theaters. The first time I was fucking starving. So that kind of distracted me a little bit from the movie. Yes, I did. Oh, you look pretty. Yeah, Aquaman is a good ass fucking time. At number 3, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. I cannot fucking pick one out of the 3. All 3 I love for different reasons. 1 has the nostalgia. 2 just has the best hero and villain dynamic. And 3 is the most ambitious, and it's the longest, and it's the most expensive. It's the most action-packed, and in my opinion, it is the best. Venom, they may have tripped and stumbled with, but I really don't think that tarnishes the whole trilogy. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy is one of those few cases where a director was given the complete creative control and opportunity to adapt a beloved superhero perfectly for a modern age and stick as closest to its source material as possible. I prefer the organic webbing over the web shooters. I never liked the web shooters. Even as I became a fan of Spider-Man, I still never liked The web shooters, I always just prefer to have organic webbing, just like in the movies. And this is the best Spider-Man stuff that will ever be made. Spider-Verse comes close, but still, you can't beat these three movies as far as I'm concerned. And the specifically the first movie is what really blasted the doors off its hinges for the whole deluge of superhero movies that we've had in the last 25 years. And number 2 is Avengers Age of Ultron. The king has been toppled. You might be surprised by what my number 1 is, but you also might not be. Yeah, Avengers Age of Ultron, I don't get why this movie gets any amount of hate at all. I've heard some people say this is one of the worst of the entire MCU. What kind of crack are you smoking? This is the only Avengers movie where the team is working together 100% with perfect efficiency. There's no bickering. Well, there's a bit of bickering, but that in context of the story, it makes sense because they're just kind of frustrated on how they're going to take down Ultron. But there's no unnecessary bickering. And you're just like waiting for them to settle their differences and just work together to take down the villain. There's none of that whatsoever in this movie. They're helping each other take down the villain. You have spectacular action scenes. The greatest villain of the entire MCU in Ultron, and the greatest voice for Voltron, totally robot, for Ultron ever. Yeah, fantastic action scenes, amazing special effects, some great Hulk action, which is the last stuff that we would have for 2 years. But I think in terms of outside of Hulk 08, this is like the peak of Hulk's badassery. I could praise fucking Avengers Age of Ultron for years. And also it makes excellent use of its $365 million budget. Yeah, Avengers Age of Ultron is a fucking spectacular movie. One of those movies that I could just pop on and watch anytime, any day, and just be thoroughly entertained. But as I said, the king has been toppled. My number 1 favorite superhero movie of all time is Zack Snyder's 4-hour-long cut of Justice League. I have now been officially converted to full Team DC. I've become very disillusioned to the MCU. I think a lot of their decisions they're making are just utter dog shit. Like, I have no interest in WandaVision, no interest in Falcon and Winter Soldier, no interest in the Black Widow movie. There's nothing the MCU is doing. And throughout 2020, Marvel just kind of abandoned us. Disney-related Marvel, that is. At least Sony was still trying to put out its Venom movie and Morbius movie, which is cool. But yeah, Disney just kind of abandoned us in terms of the MCU throughout 2020 and 2021. But who was there to keep us afloat? DC. With Harley Quinn, the animated series, seasons 1 and 2, the launch of HBO Max, Justice League Dark, the Apocalypse War, Doom Patrol, seasons 1 and 2, Swamp Thing, Titans, season 2, and of course, Zack Snyder's Justice League. A lot of us, for so long, were wondering, would we ever see this movie? And yeah, we finally have. Fantastic action scenes, great cast, really, really good story. Steppenwolf is the greatest comic book villain ever, at least on screen. Darkseid's in it, and I want to see more of him. And Darkseid's scary. He makes Thanos look like a fucking bitch. As far as I'm concerned, Thanos has devolved into a complete bitch. Now that we've seen a live-action, full-on version of Darkseid. Darkseid is king. Darkseid is the best of all. But in terms of the DC Extended Universe, Steppenwolf, in my opinion, definitely is the best villain. He has the most presence, the most threat. He actually knows how to kick ass and take names while doing it. Great special effects, a great, great, great story. Absolutely worth the 4-hour runtime. Way better characters than Justice League, as I'm calling it now. That movie just looks like a bad fan edit in comparison. I can't believe I put the 2017 Justice League on my original list. Yeah, fuck that movie. Zack Snyder's Justice League is where it's at, and has now replaced Avengers Age of Ultron as my #1 favorite superhero movie. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, and share this video with your friends. Look forward to tomorrow, where I will be ranking the DC animated movie universe. And as always, go out and if you find yourself with some powers and you're able to save the world, have fun doing it. And I will see you in the next video.